think it's going into voicemail, but I have spoken to the agent and she's apologised and is going to try and get him for me. So what I'm going to do is I was going to play their new track, So Happy, at the end of the interview. So if I play it now, then that gives you a chance to hear it and gives us a few minutes to try and get them on the line.
I see you hand in hand with that guy. You said you hated her well, isn't that nice? Well, I wave as you pass by, and I fake a stupid smile. Well, I'm just wanting to die. I'm so happy, you're so happy. Didn't everything work out? I'm so glad we said goodbye. Yeah, the sun is shining all the time, and bluebirds follow me around. I'm so happy I could cry. I like my freedom now that you're gone, and I like waking up all alone. No one tells me what to do, and I barely think of you, and how you just moved on. I'm so happy, you're so happy. Didn't everything work out? I'm so glad we said goodbye. Yeah, the sun is shining all the time, and bluebirds follow me around. I'm so happy I could cry. These are tears, you see, there's something in my eyes. It must be dust, I don't know why. It's just it happens all the time. I don't know why. I'm so happy, you're so happy. Didn't everything work out? I'm so glad we said goodbye. Yeah, I'm so happy, you're so happy. Didn't everything work out? I'm so glad we said goodbye. Yeah, the sun is shining all the time, and bluebirds follow me around. I'm so happy I could cry.
That was the latest single from Blake, So Happy. We couldn't get Stephen Bowman, but we have got Ollie Baines on the line. Welcome to the show, Ollie.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise for you, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? These last minute,
done.
these things happen.
They do, absolutely. Well, you are one of the four, I believe, in the group.
That's right. Yeah. One of the original four. We're now, of course, a three. But having Jules Knight, who has just left and gone into Holby City.
Yes, so I read he's gone to be a doctor, hasn't he?
That's right, he's gone to be a doctor. We have to point out to our fans that Holby City isn't a real hospital.
He's not a real doctor.
We had a fan the other day who came up at the end of a concert and said, I'm not surprised about Jules going off to be a doctor. He was such a caring person. And we sort of thought, no, never mind. But he's gone off to do that. So the three of us remain, myself, Stephen and Humph.
Brilliant. Okay. Now, I've been listening to some of your later music. I remember you from when you started, which I believe was back in 2007. But it's definitely got more of a pop feel now.
Well, this album, Yeah, this album certainly does. I think, it's a combination of things. One is that we've always been a group that have mixed the classical and the pop stuff. I mean, certainly our first album was a classical album, but that's the way it was marketed. Sadly, the only thing is that these days you have to put certain records into a certain box, and if you want to get, played on the radio, you have to show, sometimes one side of the coin. What I always stress is that whenever we're doing things in concerts, we're mixing it up a lot more. We're still very much the same group we've always been, giving a lot of, harmony vocal approach to all songs. And that means that we can approach lots of different music, be it sort of big, static classical stuff that's very good for live events and national events that we do a lot of, or whether it's, pop things that can actually be played on the radio. You can stretch our audience because, we always want to be stretching your audience and going out to new people all over the world.
Yes, you need to be diverse, don't you?
That's quite right. Yeah, you do. You've got to be diverse and stay alive in the game. That's why we've managed to survive for over 6 years.
So who would you say, not on the classical side, who would you say your musical inspirations now as far as sort of more pop things are
concerned? I think certainly for the new album, which is, I might add, almost entirely original, there are 3 or 4 covers on there. But the rest, about 10 original tracks, which is a complete opposite to what we've normally done, which is, normally to put, about 10 covers on an album and then a couple of new releases that people haven't heard. And that's always been purely because our audience are familiar with certain songs, and they come and they want to hear us sing music that they know. It's like every band who suddenly says, "Oh, we're now going to play something from our new album." And everybody in the audience goes, "Oh, no, we've got to sit through this. Play a hit, damn it." So we try and give them a bit of that. But I think for the new album, certainly, we've got some older influences. There's a lot of sort of Beach Boys kind of harmony. We've always had that, I think, and we've even covered 1 or 2 Beach Boys tracks before. I'm a huge fan of that particular band myself, and what they did for bringing Western harmony back into pop music in the late 60s, and the influence they had on other British bands like the Beatles, of course. There's also, you would notice on this new album, on Start Over, you would notice a sort of Bee Gees kind of sound. And that, again, is us sort of experimenting with the fact that, a lot of pop singers in this country are fans of the sort of gripped singing kind of approach, where it's quite sort of edgy and throaty and quite folky, which gives a lot of passion. But also, you're missing out on the fact that the human voice is capable of, amazingly sort of like soft floated sounds. And the Bee Gees used to do this a lot, if you can sort of cast your mind to sort of, How Do You Mend a Broken Heart, things like that, where they have this very close harmony, but it's all sort of sung in falsetto.
Yes,
and it can be really, really effective. So we've experimented with that as well, and I think so. There's a mix of different styles and influences in there.
Yeah, this is your 4th album. Did you say it was called Start Over?
The album's called Start Over, yeah,
okay.
Which is ironic, really.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Left, and there we go.
So will you be looking for a 4th person, or are you going to stick to 3 now?
No, we're going to stick to 3 now. We looked for a while, and we found some awesome people. But what we realised is that the fans were actually a bit... they sort of felt they'd known us for 6 years, and suddenly we were forced to do a number of concerts at the beginning of the year with 3 of us. Which, of course, took a lot of work to rearrange everything in time for that. And actually, we found that it worked really well. And everybody was very, very receptive to it. And I think also there is something about having 3 on stage rather than 4, whereby you can pick individual characters a bit better. So the show has become actually very more fluid. And, it's a lot easier to move a tripod than a table, put it that way.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
And so it's actually, it's nice because it's rather than having to sort of train somebody up, it's actually made us up our game. And to have to do more individually as well within the different songs that we sing.
Yeah. The original songs, apparently there are 10 originals on the album, and I think some were written by Diane Warren.
Yes,
amazing,
yeah, quite a few.
Brilliant.
I know, great American songwriter.
Yeah.
She has written several of the songs on the album, and again, that's another influence. Her sort of style has mostly been sort of Boyz II Men, American hits like that. And there is that you can hear that sort of approach, certainly in the songwriting. Whether or not you hear it in our delivery, that's up to the individual listener.
And one of the covers you've got is one of my favourites, Desperado by the Eagles.
Oh, yeah. Well, every man in his book discovered that, of course. But
Yes.
we just thought we'd throw ours in the mix. No, I'm joking, of course. It's a fantastic song. It's one of my favourites. I particularly like the way that I think it's Don Henley sings it from the drum kit before then playing, and it really is amazing. You don't get that many drummers that sing the lead, so it's quite fun to have that. But we always do that. We do that in concert. We tend to do it just almost a cappella, and then we just bring in a live piano on stage, and it's very effective, very, very ethereal and beautiful and lyrical.
Yeah.
And the one we've got on the album again is this real sort of studio session version where we've really multi-layered the vocals, so you get this real sense of sort of wonder, and I think that's what the song's really about.
Yeah, I do too as well, yeah. And you Feel My Love by Bob Dylan, which obviously was recently performed by Adele.
That's it, yeah. You Feel My Love, yeah.
Beautiful Night by Paul McCartney. I can't think which one that is.
No, a lot of people don't know this song, but this, I think, is one of my favourite new bits of music. It's off a Paul McCartney album shortly after the Beatles had finished. Originally recorded in the 70s, and then I think, or very early 80s perhaps, and then re-released, I think, in the mid to late 90s on the death of Linda McCartney, so that would be about 96. But it really is one of the last incarnations of the Beatles, because although it's a Paul McCartney track, Ringo played session drums, George Harrison played session guitar, and in fact George Martin produced it. So it really is, albeit for the lack of John Lennon, very much almost a Beatles track.
Yeah.
And there's something about covering Beatles tracks which is always, you don't sort of touch them because they're too sacred. So it was a real find for us to find this song that's really a Paul McCartney song, and to be able to do something with it, because it's lovely. I wish more people knew it. Especially the original, but I think we've done a really, really lovely version. It just has this wonderful, wonderful tune, and it's a really fun song.
And where did you record? Which studios did you record this last album?
Most of this was recorded down in Real World Studios, which was Peter Gabriel's from down in Box, down in sort of Wiltshire, near Bath, and it's a beautiful place, an incredible sort of great bunker hidden by a lake in the sort of Somerset countryside, and it's a real place to sort of go and sort of sit and become really involved in making a record. So that was lovely, but it's taken us, it took 2 years really to make this, because we kept going back and fiddling and changing things and getting very, different versions of every song. For instance, the song of So Happy you've just heard I presume is going to be the radio single version. There's another different version on the album. There's about 3 other ones, and it always happens once you start putting lots of input, different people's input. Too many chefs.
Yes, exactly.
You end up not necessarily spoiling the broth, but having a lot of different broths, shall I say? And it's very much it's sort of one man's poison, in terms of who likes what. So we all have nice friendly arguments about which one we prefer.
Debates.
And which one's going to. Yeah. So in this sense, one has very typically ended up as a radio single, and one has ended up on the album.
I'm not sure which one we had.
With any luck, you got the radio one, because it's quite fun and upbeat. It
was very good. It was very fun and upbeat, very poppy. And what about touring? Are you touring at the moment? Can we come and see you?
We have been on tour since, as far as I can tell, about 1866, because currently, in fact, I am down at home in Wiltshire in a beautiful English country garden, looking at the swallows and somebody's put a croquet lawn up. So it's all feeling pretty patriotic right now. But this is about the first time in several months I've been able to do that. Normally we are, in a hotel somewhere up north or in the Philippines or wherever it may be. I mean, we have the most extraordinary life that goes from
I'm sure.
real glamour.
Ollie, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We've got literally a couple of seconds left. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very kind.
Bye-bye, Ollie.
Europe, your voice in Spain.